Bava Kama Daf Samech Amud Beis. So nice to see everybody here today. Samech Amud Beis. Towards the bottom of the page, today's Amud is Samech Aleph Amud Aleph, but we're doing a quick recap on the Agadita of last week. Beis Abi David, Ve'emel mi yashkeni mami bo Beis Lechem Asher Bashar. Oh, welcome back. Yeah. So David said, who's going to give me water? Who's going to give me water to drink from Beis Lechem Asher Bashar, from the well in Beis Lechem, in the gate? There were three mighty men in the Machne Plishtim. Yeah, they went to the encampment of the Plishtim, and they drew water from the bowl of Beis Lechem, which is Bashar, which is in the gate. So the Gemara understands that besides the Poshup Pshat, which we explained last week, the simple meaning of the story of David being thirsty, and in spite of being thirsty, and they gave him water by Mesiras Nefesh, he spilled the water on the ground in honor of Hashem, or maybe there was a Mizbeach. He basically gave it as a nisuch to Hashem, maybe to a sukkah. It was libation of water, and he didn't want to drink from the Mesiras Nefesh of those three men. But really, the Gemara understands that there was a question asked to Beis Din, and that question asked to Beis Din was Shal. Shal is where Beis Din are sitting, as you were saying last week. Yeah, and the question was, what was the question? That's a question. What did David want from Beis Din in the middle of the war, and why didn't he accept their answer? What was David's halachic question in the middle of the war? Many times soldiers have questions, a lot of critical questions in the middle of the war. We're going to see three opinions. Question number one was a tomun. If you have items that are hidden, that are buried inside, let's say, a haystack or a pile of grains, they're hidden, they're tomun. And the question was regarding fire. Do we pass on like Rabbi Yehuda, the tomun beish is chayev? The answer, whatever they answered. Here we don't say Allah is like Chachamim, even though it is like Chachamim. Here we say we don't know what the answer was, but that's what they answered. Rashi explains, although I'm not sure all Rishonim agree with him, Rashi explains that really there was a question regarding, it was a practical question. They really did burn someone's field, and the question was, there was a Maisa, they really, the Sofa Godish of Israel, and they had to know, are we supposed to pay for the items that are buried inside? Yes or no? It was a practical question. You see, a Jewish king at war, that's what he cares about. Do we have to pay for the casualties that he caused their own people the money? Now, Ravuna comes with the second shot regarding David's question. There were Gedishim, there were piles of barley of Israel. The Plishtim would be mitamri, they would hide there. The Plishtim, the enemies, the soldiers of the enemy would hide inside the grain stacks of the soil. David had the question, should one save himself? Should one be matzil? Should one save himself with his friend's money? Which means, really, according to Rashi, the question was, it's mashma later in Rashi, and Achronim say in Rashi, that really there's a question whether a person can take money from his friend or damage his friend's property in order to save his life. And really, there's a tzad to say no. And therefore, the Achronim say, and they bring sources, this could be a roga b'li'avor. Unbelievable. We always knew there's only three roga b'li'avor. It's like a derivative of killing. That's what they say. In other words, why should your life be saved on the expense of somebody else's money? Now, that's a big chiddush, and Tosfos doesn't accept it. Tosfos says, yeah, you can see in Tosfos in the second to last Tosfos, Tosfos says, says Tosfos, Tosfos says, of course you're allowed to save yourself. You have a plishti with a gun blazing with a knife. Yeah, of course you can save yourself by killing him, even though you may be also burning your friend's field. Obviously, yes. The question is, you have to pay. After doing it, are you supposed to pay back to the Jew? Or we say no. After I saved myself with my friend's money, what can I do? It was a pikuach nefesh. Do I or don't I have to pay? Sholchulei. Regarding this question, they replied, they sent it back an answer. Also, you're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's money, which according to Rashi means you better die and not steal. I don't think that's lochel ma'aseh, by the way. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you should know. Rashi, Roiv div Rashi lo la'alocha. I told you a few times. The B'sei Yosef says in Chasisis, most of Rashi's words are not lochel ma'aseh. Yeah, we don't pass on like Rashi regarding many things. So also according to Tosis means if you saved yourself with your friend's money, that's all very nice. Of course, it's pikuach nefesh, but you got to pay him back. Also means don't just keep on going on like that, like as if nothing happened, but you got to pay him back. Aval, however, Chachomim, now the Beis Din then restricted the words, and they said, Ato melech ato, you're a king, my king. A melech really is allowed to build himself a road. He's allowed to basically benefit from other people's money for the sake of the kingdom, for the greater good of the king's palace, for the royal family and the army, whatever, for the public. And then nobody is allowed to say anything because that's the ma'ila of a melech. A melech can take money from other people for the greater good, such as for war, and nobody can say anything. So that's the second shot. By the way, not like somebody thought last week. They're not all three questions. It's a machloikis. Did David speak about Tomun? Or alternatively, yeah, according to the second opinion, yeah, the Rav Huna says, the question was regarding killing a plishti and killing the haystack of the Jew at the same time? Yes or no? The Rabbanon comes now a third opinion. Rabbanon vitem Rabba Bamari or Rabba Bamari Omu, they say, Gdishim l'soil and Yisrael habu. There were Gdishim, there were piles of seoirim, of barley, belonging to Yisrael. The Gdishim da Adoshim the Plishtim. There were Gdishim of Adoshim, of lentils. The Plishtim, in return, had nicer, fancier stuff called Adoshim, lentils. Yeah, and they, of course, from the Plishtim, you're allowed to take. Why? They're the enemy, and you're killing them, you're allowed to take their money. You conquer them. However, the question is, the question was as follows. That's the third option. Are you allowed to take the seorim, piles of seorim belonging to Israel, in order to feed your animal at war? Are you allowed to take from the Jews seorim, because that's what we need right now at war? Yeah, so we're not going to ask questions. We're going to take from the Jews now their own money from the soirim of that are meant to be for the animals of the Jews, feed our animals, and later on feed the adashim of plishtim to the Jews. I'll return them. It's not ribis, by the way, because it's not a loan, I guess. I don't know why it's not ribis, but it's not ribis. And the question was, am I allowed to take something from the Jews in order to feed my animal, in order to return later on something even better, such as adoshim? That was the question. So they replied to him from Beis Din. They sent a letter from the Beis Din, or the mighty men came back from Beis Din, and they said they brought down the pasuk. They quoted the pasuk. It says, "Chavoy liyoshiv rosho gzei yishalem." Yeah, Chavoy liyoshiv rosho. The rosho is returns. The chabolo here means probably like by Mashkon it says al tachbol beged almono. Gzela yishalem. He pays the gzela. He pays for the theft. He pays for the stolen item. But now we finish the pasuk and we explain the pasuk. Afal pi shegzela mishalem roshahu. Even though he pays back the gzela, he's a rosho. He's a rosho. In other words, even if you steal in order to give back something else, or even better, you still call the rosho. Avalato. But you, same answer as before. Melechato, you're a king. You can do whatever you want, because we have here melech from Beis David. We explained last week the parameters. It's a melech from the Davidic dynasty from Beis David, and it's a melech who's working not for his own selfish reasons. He's doing it for the war of Klal Yisrael. So just like in the previous answer, here too, we say that the melech is allowed to put it together. The melech is allowed to take whatever he wants from anybody for the greater good, such as taking the soirim. Of course, you can do it, even being nice for returning the dashim, and you can do whatever you want. So these are the three options. Again, either David asked them about, there was a case already of something that was burnt. His soldiers, burnt something that belonged to Jews, a haystack, a stack of grains with stuff inside. Am I or am I not chayv to pay for the stuff inside. Second question, not second, excuse me, second alternative, he asked them about the Plishtim hiding, thank you, about the Plishtim hiding inside the stack. Am I allowed to save myself with my friend's money? I'm going to burn the Plishtim and burn my friend's field as well. Is that okay? And also, or alternatively, the third question was, not the third question, the third pshat is, can I take the oilim from the Jews in order to return later Hadashim from the Plishtim? That was the question. And regarding the first answer, the answer, whatever. Regarding the two other options, they said, yes, you can do it. You're a melech. You're not allowed to. Otherwise, had you been a simple Jew, you wouldn't be able to do it. But because you're a melech, you're allowed to do whatever you want in context of the greater good of the nation. Frag the Gemara. Now the Gemara has a question. Yeah, we are now 5 lines from the bottom of the page. According to Mandamad, it says that the question was, can I exchange and take seorim in order to give back something nicer? Adoshim, that's why we know there's some kind of dissonance between the 2 times in the Tanakh where this parsha is mentioned, one time in Shmuel, one time in Divrei Yomim, and therefore we understand there's a difference. One place it says, yeah, that is in Shmuel, it says there was a part of the field, there was one part of the field was full of adashim, was full of the lentils. When it comes to Divrei Yomim, the other place it says soirim, barley. Oh, looks like the Tanakh, there's a stira. Here it says adashim, here soirim, but that's very good, because that's exactly was the question. Can I take soirim, in order to return adashim, in order to give something nicer, the adashim, which is the, what you call it, the adashim is the lentils. Take the barley, give back lentils. That's why it changes, interchanges in the psukim. Very good. But according to Manda Omer, that says that the question was regarding, can I burn my friend's field because the Plishtim are there, or to scare away the Plishtim, I need to defend myself. Can I burn my friend's field to defend myself? My bailehu lahanitrei koi. So why do you need those 2 psukim? Why do you speak about adashim and soirim? Amar lechos, he explains, davunami gedishim da'adashim d'Yisrael davumitamu b'Plishtim enochinami. Because you thought Israel only had soirim? No, Israel had both soirim, as we mentioned, the soirim were about to be taken. But also, according to this pshat, they had soirim, the Israel. They also had gedishim, and there were 2 questions. One time there was a question regarding, can I take the soirim? Can I burn the soirim in order to save myself? And another one was a question, can I burn the adashim of the Yidalach in order to save myself from the Plishtim? Both soirim and adashim. Tosfos explains, there's a chiddush. Tosfos later on explains, it was like a gradual question, because adashim are much more expensive. So the question was, can I burn my friend's soirim? Even if you say yes, but can I burn his adashim? Yeah, that's a question without having to pay it back. Yeah, it's like a higher level, money-wise. And Mimela, there were 2 questions about something not so valuable and about something more valuable. So that's why we have both. Yeah.
They're 2 different things.
Let's review the last few minutes. No, very good. Let's review the last few minutes. First of all, there were, out of 3 pshatim, 2 pshatim had to do with soirim and adashim. One pshat was, can I take the soirim from the Yidden, from the Jews, in order to return later on adashim, right? According to this, it makes a lot of sense why one pasuk talks about adashim and another one about soirim. It seems to be like a contradiction in the Tanakh, which cannot happen, yeah? And therefore, we must say, enochinami, the Torah talks in a way that's interchangeable, one pasuk here in a different sefer, not just a different verse, it's a different book, it's a different sefer. Why? Here, because it's coming to tell you the 2 sides of the same story. Yeah, each one is completing another side of the story. He took soirim in order to give back adashim. That's one. Second shot, he wanted to know whether he can, graze out with fire. Can he actually burn the field, knowing that the Plishtim are there? Yeah, hiding there, and it's HaKoness nefoshes. Yeah, we don't like to burn people, Chalila, but if they're about to kill us, and therefore the question was, can I burn my friend's field in order to kill the Plishti? Is it a moral thing to do? Do I have to pay back afterwards after I saved my life with his property? Now, according to that, there are two different psukim in two different places. So what? One pasuk talks about there was a case where Yidden had seorim. In another case, the Yidden had adashim. And there are two questions. Even if you tell me I can burn the field of my friend, which has seorim, they're not so valuable. Can I even burn the adashim without paying back? Oh, wow, that's much more. Can I use my friend's plastic chair in order to kill the whatever, to attack the attacker, the aggressor is one thing, but can I take his mahogany chair that's worth 10 times more? Okay, that's the best I can provide for today. Okay, now, okay, Bishlam al Mandoma, second to last line. Yeah, what's called in English penultimate. Bishlam al Mandoma lemikli. Second to last line. Bishlam al Mandoma lemikli. According to Manda Omar, that the issue was to burn or not burn the field, or to pay for the burning with the plishtim hiding inside the stacks. Hainu dechtiv. That's why it says David HaMelech said at the end of the day, I'm not going to listen to the psak. David HaMelech said, I'll be machmir on myself as if I was a simple Jew, and I will not let people burn the field of Plishtim. According to Rashi, they did not burn the field. What did they do with the Plishtim? I don't know. Kipat Barzel, they threw an atom bomb. I don't know what they did with the Plishtim. They were hiding in the stacks. David HaMelech was super moral. Maybe that's where the IDF got their mentality from. Yeah, he didn't kill the Plishtim. Why? Because he didn't want to burn the, maybe kill the Plishtim otherwise. But he did not actually burn the other Jews' fields, okay? Because he did not want to benefit from the status of being a king. So now, he saved it. Hey, stop right there. He told his soldiers, I'm going to save it. I'm Hatzala. I'm saving the field, stood in the middle, and he said, Yatzila, look at Rashi, last Rashi. Don't burn it, he told his soldiers. You're not allowed to save yourself with your friend's field, which according to Rashi means kipshutoy. According to Mandomar, that says that the idea was what lachlufi, to exchange and steal, so to speak, from the Jews the sarim in order to return the barley. What do you mean he saved? What is there to save? In other words, nobody is about to burn anything. Nobody's about to be sorry if he has to save it. Answers the Gemara, no. He saved it to begin with. Before anything even started, he did not allow his soldiers to do that swapping, that switching. That's also a form of saving. Yeah, not that there was real danger, but there was a havamin of these soldiers to take away the barley from the Jews. He told them, stop, don't take away the barley, don't remove the barley from the Jews in order to feed their animals. And that's also Hatzalah. Hatzalah means also to avoid the whole thing to begin with. And now comes the Gemara with another question. According to those two pshotim of either burning the haystack with a plishtim or switching sorim and adashim, I understand where there are two psukim, adashim and seorim, right? That, as I already explained twice, and I even recorded it twice. Yeah, you need the adashim sorim business either because you're switching one with the other, or because plishtim, or sometimes in a less expensive stack and sometimes an expensive one. Very good. According to the first Mandomar, that the issue was tomun, that if you have something hidden in the stack and fire actually burnt it, David wants to know if to pay or not to pay. What's the question already? Krai omar lecha tomun. Yeah, sorry, Krai omar lecha nekuda. These are psukim. In other words, there's no difference between sorim and chitin when it comes to tomun. Eish is eish, and we all know that whatever the eish burns, you're chayiv on, right? Even stones, whatever it means to burn it, yeah, to char it, to singe it, exactly, to singe it or whatever, or the earth. In other words, the idea is fire all over the place. There's no difference. So of course, if they told him tomun is mutter, there's no difference between adashim and soil. It's nothing to do with expensive and not expensive. At the end of the day, either you chayv and tomun, you're potter and tomun. Why do you have to mention two psukim, chitim and soirim? What's the relevance? Tomun is either mutter or osir. I don't care what's chitim soirim or my grandmother's hat. Machpatli. Answers the Gemara. Tomun b'chadem mehanach kami baile. No, really, even according to those opinions, there was a question of Tom. Even according to the opinion, it says the question was Tomun. The question was Tomun plus another one of the other options. Get that? In other words, either the question was regarding Tomun that he burnt someone's haystack with stuff already, but the Eved, and he wants to know if to pay, plus one of the other options, either burn the plishti with the stack all around him, or switch illegally between the Jews and the plishtim. In other words, out of options A, B, and C, option A is A plus B or A plus C. Memela, we know that there's always the issue of chitim and soirim. Tomun alone was not a question. It was a question of Tomun plus one of the other ones. Bishlomo. Oh, now we come towards the end of the story. Bishlomo Mandoma Hanitalti, according to Mandoma, that says that one of those last the two pshotim of burning or switching, Hainu Dechtiv, makes sense when it says, David did not want to partake of the water. He did not want to drink the water. Why? Omar, he said, what does that mean? They brought him a psak, and he did not want to accept the psak, and I already told you why. Because there's Isser involved, loy nichali. I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel it's right to use my right as a king. Even though I have the right to take away the soirim, I have the right to burn the soirim, the chitim, whatever you want, but lamaisa, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Ella, even though I'm a king, I'm not using that that prerogative, those rights. Ella lamando mal tomun be'esh kami baile. If you say that it's tomun be'esh, if so, michdi gmolahu the chulei. Tomun be'esh, there's nothing not to accept. It's a gmala. Gmala means to say this is a Masorah Baal Peh from time immemorial, from Moshe Rabbeinu. According to the ones who believe the Tomun is really a potter or chayev, either or. It's nothing to discuss. It's not a special prerogative of a king. It's halacha. Ma'ila ovid lishtoisom. What do you mean David didn't want to drink it? David didn't want to accept halacha? It's not something which is different between a king and a regular person anymore. Tomun is Tomun, wherever that is, whatever the case is. So what is the issue here that David doesn't want to accept exactly? Yeah, what is it that he doesn't want to accept? Answers the Gemara. He accepted the psak, of course, because it's Poshet HaHalacha. But David HaMelech, when he taught it later on in Besmedrash, he did not mention it on behalf of those three Rabbonim, of those three people. He didn't want to mention them. Why? Omar, this is something which I accepted that from Shmuel HaRamosi, which is Shmuel HaNovi. Shmuel HaNovi is the one who actually anointed David HaMelech. He was like David HaMelech's Rebbe. And he said as follows, a person who's moiser nefesh, and he puts himself in physical danger, real physical danger, in order to hear Divrei Torah, that's not a good thing. Wow. Wow. In other words, those three men, they went to the encampment of Plishtim, because somehow around there was a Beis Din, maybe behind the Plishtim, I don't know exactly, I don't think the Beis Din were inside the Plishtim, but somehow they had to go into a dangerous area in order to bring a Dvar Halacha. It's apparently a big surprise for me. You're not supposed to risk your life in order to learn Divrei Torah, and let's say there's a very choshev drasha from Merov, and you have to go through a very dangerous Arab village. That could be between you and the very choshev darshan, Takalocha. There's an Arab village, very very dangerous one. Yeah, something I don't know, Yudav Shimon plus. So then you're not supposed to do that. Why? Says the Malshon. We know that shluchim mitzvayim nizoikin. The answer is shkicha izeko. When it's very dangerous, when the nezik is very common and very likely to happen, then you're not supposed to endanger yourself. And therefore, you guys, I sort of appreciate what you did. You risked your life, but I don't. Because really, you shouldn't have risked your lives in order to bring the Dvar Halacha, and your punishment is, from Shmuel or Moshe, I have it, you will not be mentioned as the masters of those halacha. We're not going to say, I don't know who these three people were. I think it does say there was not of them. Tzuya, Yoav ben Tzuya, the son. What? Yoav ben Tzuya was one of them, yeah. So he's not going to mention Yoav ben Tzruya as the one who brought in the halacha because he risks his life for that, and that's not a good thing. Okay. Now, what did he do with the water? He poured it as a libation to Hashem. He says, I'm not going to enjoy it, I'll give it to Hashem. What does that mean? According to the two pshatim, that he did not want to benefit from his status as a king, which means he said, I'm giving it to Hashem. That is to say, Me'ikir Adin, I could have benefited and burn and steal and do whatever I want as a king, but I'm honoring Hashem by not doing that. L'shem Shamayim, my only reason, we look from the side and we see David HaMelech only did it L'shem Shamayim to give covet to Hashem, not to enjoy his special status. That's a good thing. That's called he gave it to Hashem. According to the one who says Tomun Be'esh, my vayasech oisam la'Hashem. According to that first opinion again, which is always the odd one out, the one who says Tomun Be'esh, yeah, then there's no issue of yes melech, no melech. It's straightforward halacha. And of course, he accepted the halacha. He just didn't want to mention it on behalf of the Giborim. But the halacha is halacha. If so, what do you mean he gave it to Hashem? Ma'akesha. And says the Gemara, instead of saying this halacha on behalf of, let's say, Yoav ben Tzruya and the other two, he mentioned the halacha, Mishmei the Gemara, which is like Mishem Hashem. He said, I have this as a Gemara. I have this as like an accepted tradition. I have an oral tradition, David HaMelech said, Mishmei the Gemara. I did mention it. I do mention the halacha of Tomun. David HaMelech did teach further on the halacha of Tomun, and that's LaHashem. It was mentioned in the Besmedrash, the Koved Hashem, Mishmei the Gemara, but I did not mention the names of the Giborim because they themselves particularly shouldn't, in that specific incident, should not have risked their lives in order to do the Dvar Lo. Okay? That's the end of this Agadita. Questions or comments are welcome, or if not, we continue. Okay, weiter. And soon we're going in Mitzvah Hashem to finish the Amud. Says the Heilige Mishnah more about Eish. Yeah, we have a few more Amudim about Eish, and then we go to Merube, the 7th perek. Yeah. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Over. 1 second, please. 3. Yes. Says the Mishnah. More about fire. Let's say the fire jumped over a fence between my field and my friend's field. There's a fence which is Daled Ames high. Daled Ames about 2 meters. And the fire, yeah, we don't know the size of the fire, that will be discussed later. But now that Goder is 4 Amos tall, and the fire managed to sort of jump over that, yeah. Oy derech harabim. Let's say between my friend's field and mine, there is a derech rabim, there is a trodden path of 16 Amos, yeah, 16 Amos wide. That's Reshus Rabim for Shabbos, right? That's about what, 8 meters, right? That's like a road, okay? Oy nahar, or river, potu. Then you are potur, which means if the fire should have been contained in my field because of the, not also between one field and the other out of my field, yeah? Let's say it's my field, to make it simpler. The one ignited fire, one started the fire in his own field. The fire got out of control. But then there was a fence of Daled Ames. You knew about it. Or there was a road of 16 Ames between him and his friend. Let's say this field has nothing for the fire to catch. And somehow the fire did manage, surprisingly, to surpass that and jump over the fence and jump over the road or a river. Then the fire's owner, as I like to call him, is potu. These things are kilu, I assume it's considered like HaKoness, so like not the regular way of the fire to go. Now, says the Gemara, frag the Gemara, Vatanya, it says in the Braisa, different to us. It says, Ovo Godel Shugavua Arba Amos Chayev. It says in the Braisa that if the fire jumped over a fence 4 Amos tall, then you are Chayev. And the Mishnah said, Potu, steer a Mishnah in Braisa, what's going on? Amar Pope says, Pope, Tana Didan, Kachoshiv milamala lemata. Our Tana starts counting from the higher number to the lower number, which means Sheish amos potu. If the fence is 6 amos high, the wall, you're potur. Chamesh amos potu. Ad arba amos potu. Until 4 amos, you are potu. Until 4 amos, you're potu. That is our Tana, yeah? Which means Dalad amos potu, 4, and as we know, there's a concept called ad bichlal, veloy ad bichlal. Here we say gavoa dalad amos potu, that is ad arba amos potu, ve'ad bichlal. So dalad amos seems to be what? Until then potu. Tana Boro, the Tana Boro, the Brisa learns it differently. Milamata lemala kachoshiv. They start counting from the lower numbers. Shte amos chayev. If it's 2 amos you chayev. Sholosh amos chayev. 3 amos you chayev. Ad arba amos chayev. Until arba amos you chayev. Look at Rashi. Rashi explains very, very simple with one word. Look at Rashi. Tana didan, this long dibra maschil here, the first narrow line. Rashi says, Tana didan kachoshiv. This really ad ve'ad bichlal. Yeah. In other words, Daled Amos potu. Daled Amos is still considered a ptur. 6 is of course potur. It's very tall, very high. How would the fire go over that, right? 5 is potur. 4 is still considered potu. Still belongs to the ptur, but below 4 is not. Right? 3.9 we already be chayiv. 4 amos, like in many many places. That's the shiur. 4, you are potur. That's the answer. Now, the Tana Braisa, yeah, look at Rashi, the next one. The Tana Baruch Choshev Lamata Lamala Shte Amos U'Shalosh Amos Chayev. The Tana of the Braisa says differently. The Daled Amos potur, the Svir Ad Veloy Ad Bichlal. Yeah, according to the Braisa, it's Ad Veloy Ad Bichlal. So when we said Daled Amos Chayev, not included, yeah, the Kulan Shovin, the Daled Amos the potur. Everyone agrees Daled Amos is potur. Both our Tana and Tana de Braisa are the same. They all believe Daled Amos is potu. One of them says Poshup Pshat potu. That's our Mishnah potu. The Braisa that said chayev, he meant to say up until then you're chayev, but once you get there you're potur. 1 potur, 2 potur, 3 potur, 4. That's already starting. Yeah, up until 4 you still potur, and after 4, below ad bichlal, then you're going to be chayev. Potter, excuse me. You chayev in the lower numbers until the 4th one. That's the beginning already of the ptur. Everyone agrees that 4 is potter. Yeah, that's like you tell somebody, yeah, somebody tells you, I'm going to stay here in Eretz Yisrael. There's a guest from America. I'm staying till Wednesday. Does it mean to say till Wednesday, including Wednesday? Or not including Wednesday? But yeah, there are two pshatim. That's exactly what's going on over here. Is 4 ad included or not included in the ad? But everyone agrees that 4 is potur. There's no question on halacha. Once you have a fence of 4, you're potur. That's a cut-off point. Less than that, you are chayev, and above that, of course, you're potur. It's even higher, even less likely for the fire to jump. Omar Rove comes Rove with another statement. Dalad ames she'omru de potur afilu b'sdei koitzim. The 4 ames of a wall that is considered to be safe enough for the fire not to go through. Yeah, again, unless I'm asking now a question myself about the Gemara. If when you started the fire, you know there's like a hurricane, I don't know, some very strong wind, of course you're going to be chayav, because you knew that the fire can go crazy to all directions. But that's not the case over here. We're talking about a nice, normal, sunny day. Everything's nice and normal, and Daled Amos should be enough. It's not like the wind is crazy and is just, taking the fire anywhere. Although we're going to see an exception to this rule also. Says Robin, those Daled Amos that are potter is even if the field is a field of koitzim, even if the field is a field full of thorns. The field next door to me is a field of thorns, and thorns are the most flammable of all 4 types of items that we mentioned before, right? Godish, Kama, Sode. The koitzim are very flammable, does make a difference. Once you have Daled Amos is it, does make a difference what is the item that's being burnt. Yeah. Now, I don't think there's a difference between Goder and Koisel. Good point. Tzvi Rosen is saying, does it say Goder as opposed to Koisel? Even a Goder. Even a godder, which is not as strong as a koisel, just a fence, not a wall, even that's good enough. I assume that's the idea. Weiter. Omar Pope. Oh. Says Rav Pope, umisfas koitzim lamala daled amois. Misfas koitzim lamala you have daled amois. From the kotzim, from the top of the kotzim, above you have to have daled amois. In other words, where does the daled amois begin? From the ground or from the top part of the kotzim? Says Rav Pope, from the top of the kotzim. Let's say the kotzim are 1 meter high. The thorns, you have to have daled amois above that. Not above the ground, but above them. Although it's machlokas rishonim how to explain it, but this is one shot. The daled amois have to be safe and above the kotzim. Omar Rav. Now comes Rav with a big exception to the rule. Omar Rav. Yeah, second. Yeah. Omar Rav. Lo shonu ela bekoilachas. This is all very nice that you have a fence of daled amois and the fence is nice and is secure and safe, but it's only true if the fire is a fire that's koleach. Usually koleach means like flowing. When things flow, they usually go downwards. When a fire flows, it means it goes up. If the fire goes up, it's a type of fire which in those conditions of that specific day, it's not too windy, and the fire naturally goes up, like Domer. The fire goes up. So if you have a fire that goes up, and right next to it is the wall of daled amos, even though somehow it jumped further, that is unexpected and crazy and out of my control. Something not so normal happened. And I'm potter. Aval benichpefes, if the fire is a type of fire that bends over, meaning it's a type of fire that's affected by the wind. Well, all fires are affected by wind, of course. It's a windy day. Because there's wind, all fires around you, and every fire you would light today would tend to be going with the direction of the wind, like kofuf, like bent over. Afilu ad meo amo chayev. Even if you have a wall of 100 amos, you chayev. Wow. Because the fire goes that direction, you never know. The wind always makes it jump over to the other side and even over the fence. Now, the Rashba says mea amo doesn't sound to him right to be talking about a wall. Wall of 100 amos would stop it. Therefore, some Rishonim say ad mea amo, he means to say of a distance, not of the wall, but of the path. Remember what we said in the Mishnah? There are two things that stop fire: either a wall, or you have a very a large dry area with nothing in there. Says, according to I think one understanding in the Rashba, if I understood it right, even if you have a very large sort of like dry road, but it's a windy day, the fire can actually jump over, or some flames can jump over a dry area and go into the other field. I saw it with my own eyes in Telstone when there was a big fire in Telstone when I was a very young man. My oldest son was a baby then. I remember very well the fire. And you could see the fire mama started here. There was a whole green area, nothing not touched by the fire. And the fire jumped over to another place, like skipping over, like Pesach, like completely that. So, what? Yeah, a gust of wind came and took one flame and sort of exported it to another area altogether, with a very large distance between the two fires. And it's the same fire, because the wind took one flame, or whatever that is, and placed it over there. And that's what we're saying here. Yeah, we're burning branches that skipped over somehow with the wind. So now the Shmuel Omar, Shmuel says, on the same idea but different level, Shmuel Omar, Mesnisin benichpefes. The Mishnah that required daled amos, or 16 amos of width between them on the ground, is the fire that bends over. Aval bekolachas afilu kol shu potu. If you have a kolachas, you have a fire with not in a windy day. It's kolachas. The fire goes very nicely upwards. Yeah, it doesn't turn to any direction. In such a case, even a small fence or a small road would be good enough, because that's all we need. Tani Kavos said the Rav, surprise, surprise. Allah is going to be like Rav, not like Shmuel. Yay. Tani Kavos said the Rav, Bamed v'omurim bekolachas, aval benichpefes be'etzim mitzuyin lo. If the fire is nichpefes, if the fire actually is bending over because it's affected by the wind, and you have wood mitzuyin lo, the Rashba says it doesn't really know what's etzim mitzuyin lo. There's wood. Maybe there's wood on the other side. Maybe there's wood on the other area. Afilo ad mea mil chayev. Even if it's very far, 100 mil, it's chayev. Fire with wind can skip over a very large area, and you're going to be chayev. And you should be aware of that In other words, when you ignite fire, when you set fire in your barbecue home, whatever, in your backyard, and you know there's strong wind going, and that wind can actually, and you see other fires, or you know, or you should be aware that fire in that condition is nichpefes, goes to the other direction. You should be scared of that, not scared. You should be responsible and aware and know that it can skip over even a very large area. So even if there's all 16 amos or 20 or 30 or even 100 amos between you and your neighbor, you should still be careful because your fire may decide to jump over to the other field, even if there's no continuous field in between for the fire to spread. But it does spread, it jumps over. However, continues the brisa, very interesting. Avo no or shlulis. But if the fire went over a river, between me and my friend's house, my friend's field, there's a river with water in there, a live river, or shlulis, or a big puddle, like a marsh. Shem rechovim ches amos potu. Interesting. If you have water in between, then the fire wouldn't go. I don't know why. Why wouldn't the fire still go over? But that's what the brisa says. Yeah, I don't know the Metzia so much about fire. I'm not a firefighter. Yeah, but Lamais it says if there's water in between, water, we all know water is against fire, but ad kadei kach, that even if you have 8 amos of water in between, even if it's a windy day and the fire is nichpefes, somehow the water would stop it, and we don't say it's going to jump over to the other bank of the river. Interesting. I don't know, but that's what the brisa says. Okay. What? 8. Yeah, ches amos. Yeah. Derech harabim. Go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If there's less, you're chayiv. Oh, nice, Jeffrey. Very good diuk. Yafeh meod. Says Jeffrey, I would say your diuk, but the other, I think that's what you meant to say. Let's say you have 7.5, a river, you wouldn't call it a river, even whatever stream of water of 7 amos wide, then you would be chayiv. Meaning, it's not like right. You're saying more, and more would obviously be potu. Obviously, more would be potu too. It's also obvious. I'm saying, so it's not like every bit of water is so strong against the fire, such a antidote for the fire. You have to have 8 amos of strong water going, and then you're a potter, because that's unexpected for the fire to be nichpefes. Again, nichpefes doesn't mean some kind of crazy strong wind. I mean, I assume that if we're talking here about some tornado, hurricane, and a tsunami would go over 8. We're talking here about regular wind that can make the fire jump further and further. So 8 amos of water, halachically, is the measurement that's supposed to stop. And you potter. Derech horabim. Man Tana. Who is the Tana that said that derech horabim is 16 amos? We're going to see in the Mishnah in Amud base, Be'ezras Hashem, it's a machloekes, what's considered derech horabim. So we know, where did we find the concept derech horabim, reshus harabim 16, regarding which halacha?
Tilto.
What? Shabbos.
Tilto.
Yeah, on Shabbos, exactly. Tilto on Shabbos. And that's true. And that's what we're saying over here. However, in Shabbos, nobody disputes that. It's not a machloekes. But regarding Eish, there is a question about it in Amud base. Says the Gemara, Man Tana, the one who believes that regarding fire, Reshus harabim is 16 amos like Shabbos, is Reb Lezer. That nan, Reb Lezer oimer, 16 amos ke derech Reshus harabim. The 16 amos, this 16 amos mentioned over here in Eish is similar, is equivalent, like, derech Reshus harabim that everybody else knows from Shabbos, and this is the Shiur. However, other Tanoim in Amud Beis and the Mishnah are going to argue on that, and now we're saying that our Mishnah says Tosis is a stam v'achakach machloikes. Yeah. First of all, we mentioned the psak halacha kilo of the Mishnah anonymously. Stam means it's anonymous. Not psak halacha. It's not true. It's anonymous mention of halacha that derech harabim is 16 amos. Later on, we mentioned it's an issue of machloikes. You know about machloikes v'achakach stam. Machloikes v'achakach stam means there's a machloikes dispute in the Mishnah, and then there's a stam. Then the Mishnah mentions it anonymously, as if nobody specific mentions the halacha is the master of the halacha. That means the halacha is like that opinion. The Mishnah would say machlokas Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Tarfon, and then Mishnah would mention Rabbi Kiva's opinion without saying any names. That means, oh, that's halacha. It became the normal narrative of the Mishnah. Here it's the other way. Here it's stam. We mentioned, without mentioning the Tana's name, we mentioned halacha. Later on, we mention the machlokas. So that does mean it's halacha necessarily. Yes? I'm listening. Okay. Yeah. Oy nahar. What did we say? Up until now, we said that if there's a nahar, there is a river that stops between the. That's what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah says nahar patu. What's a nahar? Nahar, a river. Rav Omar nahar mamish. It's a nahar. It's a river. Okay, it's a river, and therefore the river, I would assume, has water in it, so it stops the fire. That's not so simple. Ushmuel Omar. Shmuel says no. Arisa de Daloi. What's Arisa de Daloi? Arisa de Daloi is a canal, a small canal, where people take the water from there in order to irrigate the fields. So this is something much smaller that Arisa de Daloi, or cotton, says Rashi. People, yeah, they take the bucket, they take it from there and irrigate their fields. Now, and according to Shmuel, that is good enough to stop the fire from coming from one side to the other. Mando Nohor Mamish, the one who says it's a big river, Afal Gav de Leika Maya. Wow. Even if there's no water over there in the river right now, let's say this water is always there, is not always there, it's like a wadi, not a regular river. Yeah, it's called Nachal Achzav in Hebrew. In other words, in the winter it flows, and in the summer it doesn't. Some rivers are like that. They have their working hours. They take a long summer holiday. Like some countries, people have very long holidays. So even if there's no water, still it's mafsik. Yeah. Says Rashi, Afal Gav Deles B'Maya, yeah, Ho'il v'rachav havi kederech harabim. Yeah, even if it is, because it's wide, it's like the derech harabim. In the har, we assume is wide. It's as wide as the 16 amos, and therefore you have to, that this stops the fire. Now it also says that the nahar is, yes. Look at Tosfos, the third Tosfos from the bottom. The third Tosfos from the bottom of the page. Man de Omar. Very good. Man de Omar no mamish afagav the leis b'maya. You have it? Tosfos man de Omar no mamish afagav the leis b'maya. I just told you Rishus Harabim is what? Is 16. Now in Nahar, if Nahar is 16, then what's Nahar? It's just a regular Derech Harabim. What's the difference? Tosfos says no. The afagav the Rishus Harabim baites dain amos. In Rishus Harabim needs 16 amos. Hachosagi b'ches amos. Here by Nahar, even if there's no water, 8 amos is enough. What did we said before? And Jeffrey pointed out before. And Nahar has 8 amos. Nahar has 8 amos. So what's the story? We see there's Rishus Harabim 16 amos, as Nahar, which is basically half, 8 amos. What's the difference between Nahar and Rishus Harabim? The Nahar has no water. We're saying Nahar even without water. Very nice. Psh, you know it yourself. Answers Tosfos, Shia, Ellen is back. He's striking back. The sequel. Mitoch shanahar omoik. The Nahar is deep. The wadi is deep, and it's harder for the fire to go in. The gam yesh bo krirus mayim shovrim beitomid. Because it's cooler, because many times you have water going through, even if right now there's no water, but it's still different kind of a ground. The ground is naturally more wetter, more moist, and therefore such environment, not topography, such the whole environment, the topography, the type of earth, even 8 amos would not allow regular fire to go through. So if you have a regular dry Rishus Harabim is not wet, not deep. It's just plain, regular ground, plain talte mashma, excuse the pun, plain. And therefore 16 amos is required. It's dry. The Shenken, when you have a river which is deep and more moist, then 8 amos is enough to stop the fire. And that is what Rav is mechadish, according to Rashi and Tosfos. Now, 1 second. Do some acrobatics over here. Okay. Now continues the Gemara. Yeah. Umanda Omar, Arisa de Doloi, second line. Madam Arisa de Doloi, is b'maya in, avales b'maya loi. The one who says Arisa de Doloi, Shmuel that says that we're talking about a small ditch of irrigation only if there's water. That ditch is small. I don't know how big it is, but it's definitely less than 8 amos, maybe 1 amos amayim. It's a small thing. Such a small thing would not, no way such a thing would stop the fire unless there's real current of water going through. That's the nafkamina between them. According to Rav, we're talking about a real nahar, which is big. So even if the water is not currently running through, you still have that's a hefsek for the fire. According to Shmuel, we're talking about the Risa de Daloi, which is smaller, and then you need real water to stop in between, even with less than 8 amos, according to Shmuel. Nan Hosom, we see over there regarding Peah. It says regarding Peah, the Elu Mafsikin Lepeah. Let's say a person, we all know that a Peah means what? You have to leave for the Anim a corner of your field. Today it doesn't apply. You know why? Because Anim don't come. I read it in my son's booklet. I sort of remembered it very vaguely, but God has come from my son's booklet from Bava Kama. They learn now about mitzvahs Otlois Boretz. So there it says today the Peah and all the other mitzvahs like a Peah is Betzim applies, because if you know that the Anim don't come to the field, you don't have to leave it to them because they're not going to come. It's not worth it for them. It's better for them to get money from the stock organization than to start running around the field, just wasting their time. So we live in a more urban society. So the kids are, but you know, Meikar Din, you have to have Peah in your field. That's a corner. Now let me ask you a question. Let's say a person has a few fields. Obviously, each field requires his own Peah. Each field and his own little corner in the side, you know, where you leave the grains for the poor people. Wait a second. What do you consider as 2 fields? What do you consider as 1 field? Right? Yeah, let's say I have 1 field with some funny little yellow line in between. Is that a separate field? Right? What actually denotes, what defines, what kind of thing do you have to interrupt between the 2 parts of the field to consider each part a separate field? That's the question. What? Trees, all kinds of things. It's, I think, a good few Mishnahs in Peah, if I remember correctly. Also true. But we're not, we're saying let's say it all grows, let's say the same thing grows all over. Then of 2 of the things, or a few of the things that stop between one field and another to consider each one separate. Anachal, the Nachal, which may be a river, Anachal, there's a Nachal, says Rashi, Omoik Be'emtza. This deep river in between, river runs between the 2 fields. I consider these 2 fields. Shlulis. Shlulis is, in modern Hebrew, Shlulis is a puddle. For the Maisa, now we're going to see a discussion, what's the Shlulis? V'derech hayochid, v'derech harabim. Derech hayochid is the 4 amos wide, and derech harabim is 16 amos wide. The Yerushalmi asks the question, why do you have to mention both Yochid and Rabim? But even Derech Hayochid, 4 amos wide between the 2 fields. There's 4 amos of way where people tread upon and walk every day, 4 amos wide. That derech, that path is enough to stop between one field and the other. Now, my shlulis, what is shlulis exactly? How do you define shlulis? The place where Meg Shomim, where the water is being collected over there. Yeah, it's like a puddle, but it's more of like a narrow puddle. Whenever you have rain, that's where we have the rainwater collected over there. Amasmaim is like an aqueduct, is like a canal, an irrigation canal. That mechaleket shalal, like sholel. What's shalal? Loot. It gives the loot to the other side, which means it's like a canal, and it's planned by people. It's you mashkin from there. You have a canal that people actually dug, and from there it gives the good stuff, the water, to the different parts of the field. Mando mamokum shemeg shomim shalal in sham kol shekin amasamayim. We're going to continue that tomorrow. I'm just reading Mando mamasmayim. Okay, I'm going to read that tomorrow. We're going to restart tomorrow from Peah, from the whole story of the Peah, of how you define different fields for Peah and how it's connected to our sugya. We're going to see Meretz Hashem tomorrow. One thing about tomorrow is that I'll tell you soon when we're offline. Okay. Have a good day, everybody.